Is there anything that surprised or shocked about Islam, Muslims, or the culture here?
Something that did not surprise me but shocked me.
Call it Wahhabi, Barelvi, Sufi, Diyabandi, Salafis. That is actually one of our fitna that we actually have here.
A lot of people are not going to like me for this. Islam in overseas could not have survived if the Arabian diaspora had not happened. Because Pakistanis, they amalgamate a lot of things. That's it, job done. Argument closed. And I'm talking about women here. In the East, women can't even, open their mouth, let alone ask a question in front of a scholar.
The fitna that we have is divorce. The percentage of divorce.
The man is responsible for a divorce, regardless of whatever sheikh is going to say or the wife is going to say. Man is responsible. That's what I believe. The man is the qawam of the household.
Are we here in the West wrong to think and believe that people in Pakistan are able to do this?
No, people of Pakistan are not doing it. So if she takes that decision that she's going to be running, or bringing the money, then that's a totally different, religion you're actually practicing. Literally, it's a religion. It's got gods and it's got prophets. We're supposed to get hurt and bloody and bruised. Every man has been doing that from Adam onward.
Women ain't women anymore today because men aren't men anymore. What about Muwadda wa Rahma?
Rahma is not Rahma if you're enforcing it. If you're talking about a divorce, you already failed, buddy. Things have happened a long time ago. You failed as a man, as a Muslim man, way long time ago.
Couple gets divorced, kids involved. The wife takes control of the kids, but the mother does not let the father access the kids.
If you claim to be a human being, let alone a human being full of raham, and you claim to be sincere with your kids, and you do that, then I have no words. I literally can't even explain to you how big of a psychological disorder. If you have any ounce of Islam in you, please imagine what's going to happen to you in the day of judgment. Imagine the perversion, the mutation these kids are going to go through. You are the person who's going to pay for it in the day of judgment.
Sahil Adeem, a world-renowned Muslim psychologist, philosopher, life coach, Islamic speaker and a da'i, with tens of millions of listeners and a massive global following. He is often confused as a motivational speaker, though he rejects that label. A graduate of Toronto University, Canada and Chicago University, USA. He's also the CEO of Source Code Academia and the author of the book The Neurology of Emotions. He holds strong views on global politics and academia. He speaks very passionately on family dynamics and the upbringing of children with an Islamic lens. He refuses to align himself with any specific sect, rather he promotes Muslim unity as a collective entity. He's been active in leadership consultancy and professional training industry since early 2000s and has had big corporate clients from around the globe. Tonight, Sahil Adeem joins me, your host Kaka Ali, on his UK tour for the very first time from Pakistan. And having a personality like Sahil with us on this podcast, we will be discussing two of the most important topics: Islam seen in the West from an Eastern eye, and his thoughts on some of the biggest fitan we face here in the West. Welcome to UK.
Yeah, thanks.
For the first time, this is your very first time you've come to UK. Alhamdulillah, you've done quite a few cities already.
Yeah.
How many cities have you done? About 5 cities you've done now?
I've traveled through more, but Bradford, London,
Crawley, Scotland.
Glasgow, Scotland. Yeah, how could I forget?
That's been your favorite so far, right?
No, everyone, the place was, people, totally different vibe. But now Birmingham.
You're in Birmingham right now, which is, mashallah, the heart of UK. And alhamdulillah, the population of Muslims we have here, for us, obviously, Pakistan mein to, like, you've got hundreds of millions of Muslims. Yahan par UK ke andar hai, we have about 3.5 million Muslims. Jo hum Muslimanon ke liye, which is a decent number. For us, that's a large number, alhamdulillah, and it's growing. Firstly, aapse main ye sawal puchunga, Sahil bhai, ki us Muslims here in the UK taking Islam from the Eastern scholars, be it Middle Eastern scholars or be it Pakistani scholars. What would you say about that? Should we do that? Can we take Islam our knowledge, fiqh knowledge, or tafsiri knowledge, or any Islamic knowledge from the Eastern scholars? Or should we just stick to the Western scholars?
You mean Western scholars as in people who are living in the West?
People who are living in the West, yeah.
I think Muslims should be very open to taking knowledge from every scholar, like literally. Because scholarship is a very serious matter. And, any kind of theologian for any kind of philosophy actually paves the way of connecting, every, follower of that philosophy with the core. That's his core job. So the more we actually go into scholarship, the more we actually understand different angles of understanding that connection, that bridge. So Muslims should be, especially here in England, they are, in the middle of East and West in terms of scholarship. They better be getting, both these funnels very well connected together, and not just get both of them, but analyze the difference and see where the difference is coming from. This is going to, this is not available in let's just say the Arabian scholars are not going to be, students of those Arabian scholars in Arabia and Morocco or Tunisia. They do not know what's going on in India, Pakistan scholarship. Just like that, people in Pakistan, India, or Arabia do not know what the Western clerics are doing. So in England, you have that opportunity. You not only speak the same language, you can understand both the languages, you can understand where they're coming from, sitting at a neutral point. It's more of a very, good vantage point for a teenager here, where you can, see both and see how situations keep, enticing scholarship to come up with new ways to look at it, the same core. The themes don't change, but the eras of politics and culture are, changing so fast. So Muslims here can see that kind of transition, and how one can be compared with the other should be a talent, should be a skill now, sorry.
Yeah, definitely. See, now exactly on this point, because the scholars that we have here in the West, people could say, a layman could say, those scholars that we have here in Birmingham, UK or America, they've actually gone to the East and they have studied in the East and they've brought the knowledge here in the West. So why should we go to these scholars in the West? Why can't we go directly to the Eastern scholars?
Who would say that?
Laymen from here. So instead of taking knowledge from the people, scholars of the West.
That would be one of the options. Most of the people will not have that option, but whoever has that option should. I actually believe that people should go and sit with the scholars while they're studying them and understand the whole sphere of where they're coming from. And you're not going to get them from a YouTube video or a book. You're going to have to, if you can, go to Yemen or Medina or Egypt, Cairo, or Sudan, Khartoum. Yeah, well, nothing like it. But most of the people will not have that opportunity. Most of the people will go through books or any kind of, a second-hand knowledge of these very people. And just like that, you cannot just go to America and, study under the American clerics. I'm pretty sure the credibility of Islam is still set by the Eastern scholarship. So even if you have to vet a Western scholar, we need to see credentials from the East backing him up. And that's how the stage is set. But I'm pretty sure in about 20, 50 years from now, this will not be the case, because scholarship is just like that, just like the way we're actually migrating to different places. Knowledge and pedestals are also migrating, and there will be different sides of how to vet certain scholarship based on the Sunnah and the Seerah and the Quran. So there will be schools who are going to be accrediting scholarship in America independently in less than a generation, the way we're going.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, exactly. So the short time that you have spent here now, Sahil Bhai, you've been here for maybe about less than a month, maybe 3 weeks, about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Because this is your first time you've come to the UK. How do you see Islam here in the West?
I still don't believe I'm qualified to make that sort of judgment or even reach a conclusion, because the kind of people I'm actually interacting with, they come from a certain niche. They understand, the kind of message or the kind of messaging I'm actually giving out for the last few years. And those are the only people I'm interacting with primarily. I have not had a chance to go out in public other than a few occasions in London. Otherwise, in Birmingham, I just met people who already, are in the same sphere where I actually, thrive inside Pakistan or wherever. And in Crawley or in Scotland. Well, Scotland was an interesting experience. A lot of people came from different realms, and they were very, very serious. And that was, again, not big enough of a sample for me to just say, this is the kind of people that are living in. But generally speaking, they are as serious as any other Muslim in India, Pakistan that I interact with so frequently. Here I expect a lot more, and which I did get, a lot more depth in the attempt to understand what to do. Not just that, but to understand what's going on. Because I speak a global language, and a lot of times I get a lot of problems from the local Pakistanis or Indians, because they cannot really, feel, or the same picture is not painted in their minds, which is in my mind when I'm actually, trying to describe the situation. But here in England, I've had a pretty easy time. Alhamdulillah. It was very well received. Alhamdulillah. It was very well received. It's and you know what, I expected as much.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. That is there anything that surprised or shocked you about Islam, Muslims, or the culture here? Well, and the next question, if I could put two together, what surprised and shocked you, or what did not surprise or shock you?
Yeah. Well, something that did not surprise me but shocked me was the fact that we're looking at things with the same lens, which shouldn't happen. English Muslims should be a lot more, aware, a lot more aware of the global requirements that Islam has on an individual, especially in, the kind of opportunities English Muslims have in terms of raising their acumen, their global aperture. And what's shocking is that Muslims in England are still enjoying, which they shouldn't, the same Muslim clusters and the same kind of, flavors I can get that, there are lines being drawn around masjids, which does not happen in the Arabian lands. And I've, traveled through the Arabian lands. It is a pretty desi flavor that I got for Islam. That's shocking. That should not happen. In Canada, I'll tell you, the Indian Pakistani Muslims, they've been Arabianized, and in England, it's still as if I'm actually, walking the streets of Islamabad or Lahore.
We believe that. There's some areas which are literally called, when you go to an area, oh, I'm in Pakistan.
Yeah, no, it's not just the fact that, the culture. I'm talking about the lens through which they look at Islam. Mm-hmm. That's something which I thought was not going to happen. This is my first time in England, and I've lived in America, and I've lived in Canada. They have a global aperture of looking at Islam. There's not going to be any Brelvi or Deobandi or Wahhabi or Ahle Hadith or, certain factions trying to, or competing with each other. But English Muslims have a very clear, what's the word? Trenches.
Yeah.
Trenches, that's the real word.
See, that just from there, let's follow on to the rest, because that's exactly linked to this. And that is one of the problems we actually have here in the West of like making groups, call it Wahhabi, Barelvi, Sufi, Deobandi, Salafis, whatever. Be it like the committee fighting itself with another masjid, or the masjid, because they waged on match with another masjid, they will build a masjid next door just because their ways are a little bit different. So we have that here a lot.
No, we have a lot. That's what I call the Desistan. We have a lot of Desistan in England. And you know what, quite frankly, I didn't expect as much, because I know it's see, the real math that we all need to do is how much of an Arab, diaspora that we have in England. Because in America, you see, every third Muslim that you're going to find is an Arab, or maybe even second Muslim that you're going to find is an Arab. and I think Muslims in England should let them get a little washed away with the Arabian flavor, and get to see at least different versions of, different cultures of Islam from the Islamic countries. We're not doing that. They're pretty away from the, even the Muslim cultures. Mm-hmm. I do not see any Indonesian, Malaysian. I've not met any here. I do not see any Arabian, powerhouse generating, certain public policy, especially Muslim. They're not calling the shots on these sort of things, which is street Islam. It's just too soon for me to say these kind of things. Maybe there is in London.
No, we actually do have that in a lot of cities. Like if she spent more time here, and
but they're not they have not penetrated the Muslim mind, Pakistani mind, an Indian mind. Because you know what, I'll give you an example. If I'm speaking in Toronto, and even if I'm speaking to Pakistanis, I would know that, they're going to come up with a very Arabian question, or they will be very aware of what North African or the Syrian or the Iraqi way of understanding this sort of, or Lebanese. They're pretty aggressive. Even when I went to Australia, like as far as Australia, the first community I could possibly interface with was the Lebanese, and all the halal meat and all of those things were being all the the push was done by the Arabs, which is normal. I mean, I was thinking that's how the Arabs operate in Denmark. I lived in Denmark. The Libyans and the Lebanese, the Syrians, Egyptians, they call the shots on a lot of things. So Pakistanis, feed off of it, which is awesome. Awesome. I mean, we love each other. The Arabians, love the Pakistanis and Indians. I mean, it's the same sort of thing. But in England, I just did not see that. I saw real Pakistan in India. I mean, this is not a good thing. You know what?
It depends what area you go to. Alhamdulillah, we have a lot of unity now, but there's some areas, for example, we're in Birmingham at the moment, and I believe it is in many other cities as well. Like in one area you go to, like if I can mention, Sparbrook is an area, it's mainly Yemenis and Somalis. You go to Small Heath, which is another area, it will be mainly Bangladeshis. They have the community.
But they're not rubbing off on the Desis, They're not rubbing off.
Okay.
I'm telling you, you've kept them at bay. So maybe they came later, and because this was Pakistan or India. England, was all Pakistan, India, though. And I'm just thinking from just one perspective. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm telling you, in Toronto or Vancouver, well, mostly Toronto or the eastern side, and America, you cannot be a Pakistani and not be affected by the Arabian version of how to look at Islam and how to, behave. I mean, they really rub off on you, and this is awesome. Awesome. I mean, I know how, because I just keep reminiscing from Toronto, and the Egyptians and the Lebanese and the Yemenis, those were the people who I naturally had to hang out with, because not just that they were so many, but the fact that I knew that they would know where to go eat, where to go study, and what kind of excursions I'm going to plan are going to be based on where these sort of clusters are going to be. Here, when people came into my sessions, I was trying to keep trying to get an echo of to what because this is England, this is not Pakistan. But I can't. This is way more Pakistan than Pakistan, by the way.
Of course, we're called Birmingham Sharif for a reason.
And now I know. And I just came from Bradford, by the way.
Okay. They claim to be more Pakistani than us, but this is still Birmingham Sharif.
One can argue.
You know what? One thing I was surprised about because when we hosted you, how do you know about HMC?
See, there you go. That's one more reason. That's the first thing I asked. I didn't ask for halal food, by the way, in London.
No,
I asked where's the closest Arabian, neighborhood.
Yeah.
Because in Denmark and Toronto, you don't get halal food like that.
Yeah.
Arabs are gonna, serve it to you or furnish it, the options. So my host in London, she's very well versed because she's been around. So she was very conscious of the fact that I'm going to have halal food issues. So she said, we have HMC. That's what she said.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's an Arab. And she said, no, why would you think it's an Arab? And I was like, what? Who is it then? She said, he's a Bengali. So I was like, oh, awesome. So when I went to speak to the Arabs here in London, I said, you know what? I was trying to get HMC vetted.
Okay.
And that's how I think, you know.
Was you quite strict in that?
Yeah, not just that, but I knew an Arab would know. And I said, because I was sitting with the Arabs in London, and I said, you know about HMC? Should I trust it? And they smiled, and I'm like, yeah, man, we trust it. And they knew why I'm asking them.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I mean,
so do you know about the HFA? You know what that is?
Yeah, I know. So I know they taught me. See?
Okay.
So see, the Pakistanis, they do not know how HMC's, the whole supply chain and the
halal food monitoring.
Yeah, but audit mechanism.
Yes, that's right.
They knew that.
Yeah.
And I asked the Pakistanis, and they were like, no, I don't know how it works, but I know it's real. And I'm like, yeah, that's classic for you, man. That's classic. But so they actually knew how the gold standard is, achieved, and how the old audit mechanism is. So it's the way we look at, certain things in Islam. And I've been raised by the Arabs. So maybe that's why I'm a little too Arabian in that. But overseas, Islam cannot survive. And a lot of people are not going to like me for this. Islam in overseas could not have survived if the Arabian diaspora had not happened. Because Pakistanis, they amalgamate a lot of things. And maybe it's our own psychological disposition, but Arabs, they don't. They're pretty Arab. And they take pride in that. And I thrive over that pride. Yeah.
See, one of the things as well, like taking it from that point as well, one of the issues, if I could say, I'll put a few points together. So what happens here, for example, the youth, right? So when someone goes out to head towards a path of knowledge, once they start to travel on that path, once they've just begun their journey, they start to believe they are okay to refute and debate and call other mashayikh who've been in the game, if I can say, of teaching for decades. Because they've just started on the journey, they believe they can just start refuting and debating and calling other people off. So that's one of the fitna that we actually have as well in our time in the West. What would your perspective be on that? Is there anything like that do we have in the East as well? Or what would your response be to that? Or advice that you could say to these kind of individuals, our brothers?
I think humility is one of the values of Islam, core values. So I would advise youth to be humble in front of people of knowledge. However, having said all of that, I think being assertive is part of being a Muslim, and also being inquisitive and curious is part of being a human being who's going to channel that curiosity into Islam. So if the scholarship is aware that these sort of things are going to naturally happen, because the West is going to. The one gift the West is giving to Muslims, and that's primarily the reason why I'm in England, is to channel and harness that sort of strength that this pedestal has to offer to Muslim youth. That they are going to be curious, they are going to go into different levels of knowledge, they're going to ask questions, they are going to challenge, and they're going to refute. And I think with time, when they're going to grow into some sort of maturity, they'll understand what kind of chaos that they were up to. But I think the scholarship should grow a lot more thicker skin to take this sort of heat from the English or American youth, because that is naturally going to happen. And I don't, sponsor or endorse it, that you just go hover like bees around scholarship, but you shouldn't just stop it. You can't just, start following people. In Pakistan or India, when you flip it, you'll find out that there is no growth in the intellect of a Muslim, because as soon as they see a scholar, they're not going to challenge him. And one scholar becomes more of a prophet, na'uzubillah, rather than just a scholar. You can see in Pakistan and India, when I say this is something which Hanifa has said, that's it, job done. Argument closed. He was not a prophet. You know, we have to still see what was going on and how did Abu Hanifa reach that conclusion. That brings the power and essence of Abu Hanifa, rather than just, not even think about this. So we have to balance all of this. I would advise the youth to be humble and polite. Rudeness is not part of Islam. Be very, very respectful to scholars. They're not just anybody. They are the only source through which you're going to get. Otherwise, just go through all the libraries then. Spend the decades that they have spent. This is disrespect to the time that they've spent, and like literally they've given their lives to. And so instead of getting all that knowledge, they're trying to polish their egos and trying to challenge them. Or maybe there is a weakness in some scholar, and they're just trying to pound on that weakness, trying to get their, own pedestal established as, as some speaker or whatever. So the respect, if you cannot respect a scholar, then might as well just choose another path or career. Islam is not going to endorse you.
See, one of the reasons why I actually had one of the scholars actually mention this, the reason why you don't have this fitna in either the East or the Middle East, because you have too many scholars here. There's too many ulamas. A youth can't rise from that land and try to come out and say, come to me, don't go to them. Because there's too much scholarship there already.
I don't agree. I think it's more of a cultural thing. And my stencil is the Sahabas. So I'll tell you a hadith where it's a very famous hadith, when Prophet once asked the Sahabas about he was giving an analogy, and he asked, which tree do you think represents the man and the cycle of the life cycle of the man? And nobody could answer. And Abdullah bin Umar and Umar Khattab, both the father and son, were there. And Umar Khattab did not know the answer. And Prophet said the palm tree. So, and then he explained. And on the way back home, Abdullah bin Umar said that, oh father, I knew it was the palm tree. And Umar Khattab, you know what he said to his son in his late teens or maybe mid-teens? He said, why were you shy? Why did you not talk about this and tell the Prophet ﷺ that you knew? And he said, because I was so shy. And Umar Khattab said, don't ever be shy like this in Islam. Okay? Now that's the advice I'm going to give to the youth, that, you want to speak to the scholarship. That's an amazing honor that you get. But more curious, an honor. Once you are in the sphere of respect. You want to challenge, you challenge. Of course you challenge. But you better have the same kind of homework that the scholarship has. If you have that, even if you're under a certain category you have, of course you're not going to have all the categories, otherwise you would be the scholar. But even if you have that category of, let's just say you have a grip on some sort of a logic about that argument that you're trying to place, then you better present that homework. Be respectful. Keep the challenge going. Don't stop the challenge. Actually, that is the downfall of the Muslims in the East, because they've stopped questioning their people. And Prophet ﷺ, when he went to Medina, another way to validate all of this is through the stencil of the Seerah, is that when he went to Medina, women just, jumped at him that we have so many questions, and they just start, asking so many questions. Prophet ﷺ started smiling, and he praised those women. He said, I like the women of Ansar because they ask so many questions. So this is, and I'm talking about women here. In the East, women can't even, open their mouth, let alone ask a question in front of a scholar. So Islam actually invites this sort of debate between youth and the elderly, and the elders, sorry. Islam actually brings the youth into that realm of, understanding, rebutting, not just for the sake of, winning an argument, but to understand. And that's where humility comes in. Because if you're trying to prove that you're a big scholar, or a better person, or a more eloquent or more articulate person, then what does that got to do with Islam?
Yeah.
Islam is all about making the other people learn. And even if you have spotted a flaw in some sort of an argument from a scholar, you should go to him in private rather than just make a mockery of this person or the whole, deen that we're representing, and, making a fool out of him in public. And releasing videos about, hey, I picked out this. And, atheists don't even do that, with an ounce of humility. So Islam is a religion of grace. You cannot let go of grace. And the more graceful, any of you want followership, if they're going to follow your grace, they're not going to remember your argument more than 30 minutes after your video. So Muslim man or woman should be, very graceful, especially in terms of how to interact with people, let alone interact with elders and scholars.
Another thing, if I could just actually take from that, is to one of the fitnas that we actually have got also amongst the Muslim community, which will take us on to the next phase now of our podcast that we have here, is the fitna that we have is divorce. In UK, so the percentage at the moment, UK population is about 65 million. So the percentage of divorce, all of the communities, is around 68% of the marriages which are ending in divorce at the moment.
Well, what's the percentage of Muslims?
We don't have percentage, but what we believe, what we are told, what we see is Muslims are also taking a good share of that as well. Of course, our numbers are 3.5 million, so we're not a huge percentage of that.
No, but we can get the maths in this. We should get the numbers on what's the rate of divorced Muslims.
Yeah.
But they are registered.
Of course they are. Of course they are. But it's happening. It's also happening quite a bit as well. So we see the divorce coming in a bit more often. So one of the things that we actually get to see is a lot more single parents. Obviously, that's the biggest struggle and the trial on the children as well here. And it affects them as well, like, their growth and how they think, how they take Islam as well, however they're going to grow up and their upbringing and everything that's going to go as well. So, how would you say, so what I'm telling you about here in the UK that we are facing is the same trials and the tests do you have in the East as well?
Yeah, pretty much. The divorce rate is going through the roof. So it's not just the West. I mean, it is a lot. I mean, we're bringing it from the West because we're bringing from the West is not divorce, but the reasons for divorce. And that's the kind of lifestyle that we have, and the kind of lack of hardship, the kind of rise in affluence per capita. These sort of things come in, hardships go down, divorces go up. And that's just common math.
It is happening a lot, unfortunately.
Islam is not the priority anyway. So I'm just saying, Muslim land does not mean we're Muslims by practice. So divorce rate is going to go up if these sort of factors come into any society.
So because we are even like exactly what you just said right now. So the practicing Muslim is the minority from the minority at the moment.
They're not going to have much divorce rates. If anything, in a practicing mother or a father, wife or a husband, we would have a divorce percentile going up if either one of them is trying to practice Islam and the other, the spouse isn't. That would cause a divorce, but that would be minimal. You won't even see any kind of significant number there. So when you see divorces in Pakistan, India, or the Arabs or wherever, you would see primarily the same sort of reasons of which you're going to see in Monaco or Luxembourg.
So on this point now, okay, I'm going to give you 2 of the top reasons from our scholars who deal with a lot of divorce cases and who do teaching. They get a lot. Of course, when you become a sheikh, when you become a teacher, a preacher, at the same time you also become a counselor, because obviously it's a job, isn't it?
It's a job.
Exactly. So they get a lot of these issues coming to them. So if I could mention 2 of the top reasons why divorce takes place in UK. So if I could ask you, what would be the top reasons in Pakistan? So the 2 in UK, number one on the top of everything is the in-laws. When the man brings the wife to the house, in his house with his parents, and that fitna, the collaboration doesn't kind of blend in as it should.
So
that's the top one. Second top one is when the wife starts to earn more than the guy, the financial reasons. These are our top 2 reasons at the moment and causing a lot of divorce.
Well, that's pretty evident. It's the same thing in Monaco or Luxembourg or New York. That's number 2. That's the second reason. I'll come back to that because that's primarily against the design of the institute. I actually believe the man is responsible for a divorce, regardless of whatever sheikh is going to say or the wife is going to say. Man is responsible. That's what I believe. The man is the qawam of the household. So if the team falters, you got to blame the captain. Now, how is he placing himself inside that marriage from day one, that's going to determine many things that's gonna, you know, I mean, divorce is one of the many things that are, you know, now it's emerging. It's just popping up as a big failure of the institute. But, you know, let's just call a spade a spade. How did it start? How does a man place himself inside this whole, you know, institute? So if he's bringing a wife into his own household where there is another man, which is his father, then there's a problem. He should not do that. That's, again, we call ourselves Muslims, and we put another woman under a charge of a responsibility which was not hers to begin with. And you cannot put a charge on a human being which is not responsible for a load or burden which she's not supposed to carry, and she's not going to carry it. And if she's failing in carrying that burden, we actually put a lot of Islamic spin on it and start to blame that woman. That was the man's job to take care of his parents, not his wife's job. It better fail, because I call it taghut. You're actually enforcing someone to actually obey my parents, which was not her duty to begin with. It's my job to obey my parents, serve my parents, die serving my parents. That's my job. Okay. And I got to bring more luxury, if I'm making that kind of money, to my mother first. Okay. And my father, of course, and relieve him of the burden. Like, now I am in power. Okay. You don't have to work that much. Retire. Your son is of age now, and of ability, of capability. That would be before I'm ready to get married. Now, once I have established that, now I'm ready to get married. Now that I can get married, I better get a woman in a place where she can enjoy that sort of relationship with a man, you know, who is going to develop that sort of an institute with kids and, you know, the new life. But what we do is, as soon as we get some sort of capability, we are not capable of handling 3 people, and we, you know, which is my mother, my father, and my wife. We're only capable of handling one other person. All of a sudden, we start, making that rectangle. You're not going to be able to balance this rectangle. My father, my mother, me, myself, and my wife. This is a very tough balance. You need to be a billionaire to do that. Okay, and it's okay if you're not making that kind of money. If you're not making that kind of money, so it's okay. Don't bring in another person.
So you know what? Just on this part, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. Are we here in the West wrong to think and believe that people in Pakistan are able to do this?
No, people in Pakistan are not doing it. That's our fathers have been serving wrongly. Okay, our kids and their wives. That's not their job to actually serve their kids and their wives. And those little puppies are just living it off, in fake egos, thinking, they're the man of the house. No, they're not. You're not the man of the house. Your father is. Most of the Pakistani men are not even qualified to get married. Their fathers are, and they're living off of their fathers, empires. Like, as tiny as that could be. I'm not saying, I'm talking about those billionaires. No, even if, you have a rented house, but your father's paying rent, and you're just a developing career. You're inside a developing career. You just got your job and now you're getting married. No, you don't. You're not supposed to get married. If you cannot run 2 houses, don't get married. Okay, because if you're trying to make that poor girl, run that house, which you're not going to be home for, money is not running that house. Okay, balancing relationships is called running a house. And she's the one who's actually doing all the political framework between my mother and her, and my father and her, and my all friends and my siblings and all of those cousins. And she's supposed to be single-handedly, a 24, 25-year-old girl who's never had any exposure of this sort of, sensitivity. And that's why you're going to see domestic disturbances all over the place. And I would be surprised if these numbers didn't really, sort themselves into this list. But they are sorting it, rightly so. Domestic disturbance should be, and in-laws should be the number one reason for our divorce, because those are not supposed to be, in the periphery of the woman. But she's there. That's all she's dealing with.
2 things I'll say here. Let's try to kind of balance out the other side as well. 100% I agree with you.
That would be my option too. That's something which I was going to talk about, the woman's role.
Yeah.
in the next reason,
Yeah.
you just gave me enough of what's the word? Reinforcement of my belief. See, the system is run by the man, and the domestic system is run by the man, and that's rightly so. We were given the muscle, we were given the thicker skin to go and face the heat, make the money, go through every sort of problem, absorb all the heat outside to make sure the heat does not come to our wives and kids. That's the job. That's the job of a man. And women are not even designed as these for these sort of things, because the body itself tells you it is the design. If you see an F-16 and you see a Boeing A380, you'll see what is it for. Okay, you're not gonna put a couple of pilots for a commercial trip from America to Pakistan in an F-16. That's just not gonna work. Even if you make it to Pakistan, it's not gonna be able to fly back. And you're not gonna take an A380, for a war mission, because it's not designed for this. So we know by looking at the system and that's why I say our muscles are our responsibility. We better be going through a lot of pain. So when a woman goes for a career, for a job, and starts to become a breadwinner, and I'm not talking about those single mothers, I respect them. That's inevitability. That is God's design, and whatever they're doing two jobs at the same time, the job of a man and a woman. I totally respect those single mothers. But I don't really respect that woman who has no reason, and she's actually put that burden on herself, and she wants to be that career woman for the sake of proving some identity that she got from some thought process that, I gotta be you need to be skillful. God forbid your husband dies, you should not be living on charity and whatever. I understand that, and that's again another job of the man to develop the wife. Okay, my brothers shouldn't be burdened with my wife and my kids after I die. So my wife better have the skill. But I'm not. You forcing her into a career, you're actually ruining the kids. You're ruining the children, because they need the mother way more than they need me inside the house when they're infants and they're growing the first 10, 12 years of their lives. That is the career of the woman. So if she takes that decision that she's going to be running, or bringing the money, then that's a totally different, religion you're actually practicing. Literally, it's a religion. It's got gods and it's got prophets. Okay, those prophets are with the P-O-R-F-I-T, but it's still prophets. Okay, so you better understand what this design is. Once you live out that design, you're going to find ease, and you're going to find harmony, and you're going to find so much comfort. And I'm telling you, if we were the other way around, I would never work. I would know what my job is, and I would be actually, for my own identity, I'd be more. I would have way more knowledge. In this design of Islam, women are technically supposed to get way more knowledge because they have a lot more time for themselves, but they're not. They're sitting in front of TV if they're not doing their, chasing a career, and from that TV they're getting those sort of, philosophies in, and they're just trying to chase a career because they want to be, Anistons and Lopez's and, whatever Jennifer you're going to name. You're supposed to be enjoying your life. Islam actually makes a girl actually enjoy a lot more of this life than a man. We're supposed to get hurt and bloody and bruised, battered. That's the job. And every man has been doing that from Adam onwards, okay? And we haven't complained. So, and we don't really chase our career to get our man's identity. No, we don't have to prove our identity through our career. Why does a woman need to prove her identity of a woman from a career? I'm saying? If you're not a lawyer, you're not a man. No one has ever said that. If you're not a doctor, you're not a man. No one says that. I'm a man because I'm a man. I gotta go out, whatever I gotta go, even if I'm a plumber or the president of America. It doesn't really matter. I'm still the man because I gotta get the money in, get the system working, whatever I can. I gotta do the best I can, and that's my identity. It comes from really, literally from within me. The way I'm designed, the way I can actually, lift weight. It just makes me, more responsible, and it makes me more of a failure if I'm not fulfilling my design. Mm-hmm. That is my identity. I would be less of a man if I'm not doing all of this. If I'm not utilizing this system, this body, this might, and this brain towards the right use, Doesn't matter what kind of money I make after that. It doesn't matter. It does not change the identity of a man if I make less or more money. It does change my identity if I don't work. And that's the exact opposite to a woman. So if she's working, a lot of onus I give to the man, her man. It's like, what were you thinking, man? Why did you not start the game with the right, from the right rules and from the right page? That this is my job. I'll take the pain. You take the kids. Okay? I'll take the blood. I'll take the bruise. I'll sweat it out all my life. I'll never let you know what kind of pain I face outside. You just relax, make sure the kids are happy, you're growing with a lot more knowledge, give them time, and use me after, and when they're of 12, 15, 13, throw them back at me. I'm going to carry their burden as well. Look at the job of a man. You want to do that job? Okay, we can use a couple of, pair of hands. Okay, but then don't complain. No woman should complain that she's being mistreated or whatever. You better get mistreated, because we get mistreated every single day of our lives. That's part of being a man. Okay, and you want to play the man's game? Okay, I'm not going to say, whether you're a woman or a man, but you better be ready to get bloody, bruised, and battered every single day. Okay, no, play the woman card at that time then. You have no right to play the woman card. Okay, because there are no men cards in our game. Okay, we know if you're a man, you're gonna get slapped around just for being a man.
Exactly, you gotta take it all on. Well, I know you're very passionate about that. We are definitely gonna get like 150 questions for that. Any question, just drop them in the comments. We're gonna go back to Brother Sahil again. Jazakallah khair, what you just said right now. A lot of questions. I'm just gonna take maybe one or two from that. 100% again, I agree with everything that you just said. But just a little bit of the other side of the picture. Yes, the man takes the wife. He gives her her own home. She needs to be treated like the queen if he wants to be treated like the king, of course. One of the things actually we hear, women ain't women anymore today because men aren't men anymore. And it can work both ways. Anyway.
No, it doesn't. I blame
it?
the men.
Yeah.
When women say that, I totally agree with them.
Exactly. So, yes, the man gives the woman her house, comfort, and everything. What about muwadda wa rahma? As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran as well, that's what marriage leads on with. But when they try to take the card that we don't need to do anything for your parents, where does muwadda wa rahma get left behind? Why does that get left behind?
Well, because you're making it mandatory and enforcing that rahma. Rahma is not rahma if you're enforcing it. The word rahma is in oxymoronous with if you put a mandatory clause on it. Rahma is rahma when you're voluntarily doing this. And if you're making my wife, you know what, you better start doing rahma on my folks. That's not rahma, that's a duty. Okay, and there is no duty other than what Allah has, made a duty for anybody. So if a man knows that a woman has enough grace of her own, she's going to do rahmah on her own. You cannot enforce her. Okay? Secondly, it's about the vicinity, not the personality. You put me in a vicinity of elderly, I really need to, it's not upon me not to do rahmah on those elderlies, right? But who put me in that vicinity? And it's not about the being in the vicinity, it's about not being able to come out of the vicinity. So that's my only home, and there are two old folks there, and I cannot get out because that's the only home that I have now. And that's somebody's failure, and that's the man's failure. You know what I'm saying? If you put two different houses, and there is my father and mother there in one of those houses, and the other house is independent, where my wife is, she is naturally going to do 10 times more. Out of her own grace. That's the woman's design. She's going to spend more time in that house serving my father and mother. But if I'm making it mandatory, then I'm calling in for the perversion. I'm telling you, women are not perverted. We make them perverted. You know what I'm saying? Most women, regardless of Muslim or non-Muslim, out of their own womanly, feminine design, they would practice their rahmah. But we just, hover our fathers and mother around them like bees and, thinking, hey, why aren't you being... where's your rahmah? No, this is not rahmah. Are you kidding me?
That's beautiful. No, Jazakallah khair. Very nice. Just one point I would also say, where you said right in the start, and I believe the way it is at the moment, because I've heard the Eastern and the Western scholars as well, one of the things that has happened again in the West, in marriages, the Khulah. it has become, and I believe it's not, from what I've heard from the scholars of the East, it's not how it is in the West at the moment. Khulah has, you know how you just said in the start that the divorce is in the man's hand, but the way it is today, Khulah has become very easy for sisters to get right now in the West, unfortunately, to a point, of course, I can't mention any names, but one of the scholars in the West, here in UK, I actually raised this question and I asked them about this. Why has divorce, Khulah, been made so easy? Their response, shrug of shoulders. They can't even respond.
Who, they?
The scholar can't even respond.
You know, I think we've spoken about this, divorce or khula. The man has to say that, the three words, rather, you know, regardless of whether whoever initiates it. See, khula in Islam is easy, okay? You make sure, let me just face the camera here. Khula is the easiest thing in Islam, okay? If you read about it, you'll find out. See, divorce was supposed to be, but marriage was supposed to be the toughest institute. Getting married was supposed to be the easiest, but marriage is supposed to be the toughest institute. That's why we gave it to the man. You toughen it out. You know, you're supposed to be, ragged into this planet, and then serve your people, make your women feel like queens. That's not an easy job, okay? So that's why I blame the man when there is a divorce. I'm not saying that, there are muminas flying around like, little Tinkerbells and you're just slapping them around. I'm not saying that. I know there are falls of women. I mean, any fool would know that. And it doesn't take a real rocket scientist to know that, a lot of divorces are caused literally by women. And there are a lot of women not supposed to be in vicinity of human beings, let alone Muslim men. I mean, I know that. But the divorce, the breaking of the marriage has to be a responsibility of the man. That's not my words. That's why the divorce was given to the man, that you are going to give the divorce. So if it is happening, he is responsible. It's common sense. I mean, I'm trying to put this burden on the man for a reason, so that he can work every single detail out before he gets married, during the whole marital, whole journey. And if there are any fractures, he better preemptively take care of them. Rather than just talk about, why is she taking khula, or why should I give her a divorce, or why not? If you're talking about a divorce, you already failed, buddy. Many, many months ago, you were failed. Maybe years ago, you have failed already. If the word divorce is in the air, or the khula, things have happened a long time ago. You failed as a man, as a Muslim man, way long time ago. So, and khula is supposed to be easy, for God's sakes. Imagine the worst case scenario. We can't just confine the woman entire for life and make it so complicated to get out of it. She's a dependent. Islam gave her an easier way out. She wouldn't, she doesn't even like the looks of a man she can get out. Okay? Good enough. I'm talking about, that's an exception. Most women, I know in Pakistan or in all of those, because you know what? Islam is not even practiced by most people, most men. And when Islam is not practiced by most men, I don't really blame anybody under that man, the wife or the kids, for going un-Islamic. The man is supposed to set the precedents, set the examples, and for every single second. I mean, marriage is such a tough institute. For every single second, even if you're not internally a moment, you got to pose as one. Because of your kids, because of whatever your wife is going, she's going to be echoing. She is a mirror of whoever you are as a Muslim. Or actually, you know what, on the contrary, she's a mirror of how non-Muslim you are. She's going to, because every dependent is, it's just, you're making a jail out of your own household, and, they're going to try and look for ways to escape from the prison. It is that simple. And if you're going to make a shrine or, a peaceful palace out of your house, no one's going to look for ways. People are going to look for ways to come in this building. So if people are trying to get out of your own house, that means you didn't really understand your prophet. You didn't understand how Islam, the essence of Islam. Nobody wants to give out of a guy who's all love and care. I mean, this is, I'm just amazed at how men don't get this simple concept, okay? And I'm a man, I'm a Muslim. I will never blame any woman, even if, the verdict is against her. I am not going to blame her, because God gave me the responsibility. I better accept my failure. No matter what has happened, I should have known. It was my job to know, and it was my job to fix. Okay, way before this event happened, it was my job to know. That's called kawam. That's not an easy job. So all those boys who are really eager to get married, it's not an easy thing to do. Okay, it's not about your libido. Okay, it's about the akhirah. It's about, part of your body missing when you're going to wake up on the day of judgment. How unjust you are with your own wives. And it's not about having, many wives. Even if you were unjust with just one wife, you can't be. It's that simple. So all those men, I know you'll be cringing that, you just gave a get out of jail free ticket to all those women, all the women in the world. Yeah, I am giving it to them because the burden of this institute is on the man. You better man up and accept that whatever is going to fail in, let's just say 5 years, 5 months, 10 years, you better fix it right now because you can. And it's your job to fix.
Jazakallah khair. That's beautiful. One of the things I would say, one of our scholars, he said, and I take that from the point that you just mentioned as well, that if you are in a marriage and you are you get to a point that you are having to quote Quran and Hadith to get you right, your marriage is on the rocks.
Golden words were seldom spoken. I totally agree. If you're invoking Quran at the time when you need to invoke, it's too late already. You should be living the Quran. Living, not reciting it. You should be living the Quran. If she cannot remember the Prophet ﷺ by your own actions, she better get a divorce. Okay? That's how simple it is. And I'm telling you, and I know some mominas who have been my spiritual mothers, and I know I'm married to embodiment of those women who are so, they're reminders of how, they are the best check on you. If your wives are not checking up on how much of a copy of the Prophet ﷺ you are, women are not doing your job right. If you're not a check on your husbands about what kind of fractures they have, and give constructive feedbacks, and if they're not learning into becoming more of a copy of the Prophet ﷺ, then you're not defining this institute right. Because if there were any other solution to this concept, if there were any, Prophet ﷺ would have given us that version as well. He only gave us one version, and that's the only version that's going to work. Otherwise, you're compromising in so many things. Then I hear this word more than I hear the word marriage. Actually, you know what? We use this word compromise with marriage as if it is, that's like the rule. No, it's not the rule. There are happy people with no compromise. No compromises of any kind. If you're thinking that you're going to compromise on something because of whatever's going on in the, with the wife or the husband, well, I don't know what kind of books you've been reading or what kind of people you've been hanging out with. Read the seerah, make sure she reads it, understand how beautiful the relationship becomes once the man, preemptively looks into these sort of concepts. And having said all of this, now I think I've built up enough out of this. A man better divorce the wife. He better, and a woman better take the Khulah if these rules are broken. You better end it. Islam is not only a religion that enforces this institute, but it is the only religion that enforces the breaking of this institute as well because of the kids. Okay, marriage is not about husband and wife. Marriage is about the future. So your kids, if they're not growing into the copies of the Prophet ﷺ, one of you, us, or both of us are so wrong that we're creating Abu Jahls in our own house. So we better make those decisions as well. Okay. Again, I said this as a part of the end because I hope everybody gets the bigger message. Islam is not about divorce, but Islam is all about marriage and the fine institute of harmony. But make sure you have that sort of decision, the leadership, sense of leadership to make that decision, the capacity to take that decision as well. Okay, it's not all about what Sahil Adeem said. We're getting divorced. I'm at fault. Yeah, you are at fault, man, but you got to recover. Okay, because kids are way more important than your marriage.
Another fitna that happens in this country at the moment, and I personally, from top of my head, 6 of my own personal friends are actually suffering through this at the moment. Couple gets divorced, separated, kids involved, 2, 3, 4, how many other kids, and the wife takes control of the kids. It happens a lot. And because in this country as well, the country law is actually more in favor of the mother actually. Doesn't matter what the age is. They're more in favor of the mother and the children staying with them. But the mother does not let the father access the kids. How much ever he has to go to the courts. Personal experience from my personal friends who have gone through this. But she does not let the father access the kids. It's gone on for, it could go on for a couple of years even.
Beyond any common sense, let alone the Islamic sense. See, you were using the word rahma. A human being who claims that, she or he, most of the time these are she's because they get the custody of the infants and, kids who are not of that age. So if you claim to be a human being, let alone a human being full of raham, and you claim to be sincere with your kids, and you do that, then I have no words. I literally can't even explain to you how big of a psychological disorder. Forget crime and sins, and this is a disease that you're suffering from. You're beyond selfish. It's such a big disorder that if you are in any way sincere with those kids that you actually claim that you are as a mother, you would not even think about depriving the kids with the natural biological connection of the father. There is no man in the world, however moment he is going to replace that sort of a connection and that sort of sincerity with your children. And it's not about the fact that you have a feud with this, because as a husband it could be a failure. I'll give you that. The divorce was rightly done, or the Khulah. I'll give you that as well. But that has no bearing on the connection between the father and the children. Even if he doesn't love the children, you have to force the father to be connected and raise the children as much as he can. I mean, that's how much it is appalling when women they claim that they have raham and their sincerity. These two words become there's a paradox. You claim to be sincere and you're depriving them of the most natural connection with their father. But if it was the other way around, how would you actually think of that man? He was depriving the children of their mother. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. It doesn't take a scholar of Islam to understand this. An atheist living in Antarctica would tell you how blatantly it is zulm, nothing else. It is zulm. And if you have any ounce of Islam in you, please imagine what's going to happen to you in the day of judgment. Imagine the perversion, the mutation these kids are going to go through because of the lack of that fatherly umbrella of so much support and connection and biology. Literally, it's just you're damaging the biology of the kids. And once they're going to go through those sort of problems in the future, you are the person who's going to pay for it in the day of judgment. I'm telling you as a Muslim, do not do this to your kids. Do not do this if you are in any way calling yourself a Muslim or a Muslimah in this case. Your kids are going to get those sort of broken family disorders because of your ego. Because this is ego, nothing else you're practicing. Even if you think he's a criminal, he's still he's a criminal as a husband. He cannot be a criminal as a father. And even if he's, not responsible or care less about this concept, you got to force that man to be, taking care of your kids. Even if the court is giving you custody, make sure that has nothing to do with the care that the father has to give to the kids. It is that important. They need you for just those 5, 7, 8 more years. After that, they need their father. In their teens and post-teens, they're better. It's the design of the society. It's not just the design of the household. Girls, especially if you have girls. I'm talking to women who have girls. A girl who is raised without a father, she's a prey for all the people in the society. Those vultures in the society are waiting for all of those girls who are fatherless or not raised by fathers or do not have protectors, they're real fathers. You're literally presenting your daughters to the vultures and the animals of the society. in about 10 years from now, your daughters will be the first prey to all of those animals, because it is your ego that is in the way of, the protection. If you were any sincere, you take my word seriously. Do not do this to your kids. It's not about you and your husband anymore. It's about your daughter or your son, coming in inside the society as a Muslim. This is probably the source of all sins your kids are going to commit. Whatever they're going to commit, it's on your head. It's on you. It's that simple.
Sahil bhai, Jazakallah khair.
Barakallah.
120 questions right now from that as well, but we're going to leave that until next time.
Sure.
May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make a journey safe for you, take you home safely to your family as well, and your kids as well. We really appreciate your time. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow you to come back soon again, and we're going to carry on with the next part with the other 120 questions that we already have got.
Inshallah, thank you so much.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.